I know, I was like, of course I have my Blu-ray.
Oh, thanks so much.
Oh my god, yeah. So I bought it on demand.
I'll just give you a quick
Oh my God.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Yeah, I bought it on demand, and then of course, before the Blu-ray came out, and of course I had to buy the Blu-ray,
Oh, so sweet.
Yes, well, so nice to chat with you,
So nice to
Celine.
chat.
Yes, this is in my top 3 films of the year. I'm
Amazing.
obsessed with it. All of my girlfriends and I are like, this is going to be our new personality
Oh!
for the rest of the year. I just think it's a masterpiece in storytelling, and I just find it so relatable. I know that you've been getting this question a lot, but you obviously wrote and directed the film. So what was the inspiration for Past Lives for you?
To me, it was really this moment in my own life where I found myself sitting in this bar in East Village in New York City, sitting between my childhood sweetheart who had come to visit me from Korea, who's now a friend, and my husband that I live with in New York City. And I think sitting there, I was just translating between them in their small talk, basically.
Oh, wow.
And I really felt like something really special was passing through all three of us.
Yeah.
And I really felt like for a moment there, I become a bit of a portal and a bridge. And not just between two cultures, of course, two cultures and two languages, but also between my own self, different parts of my own self and my own history. And I think that feeling really was the thing that stuck with me. And at one point, I was sharing the story about this movie with some of my friends.
Yeah.
And not only did it inspire stories that they want to share with me, it also made me better friends with them. And I think there's something about that really encouraged me to write the script. That really wasn't.
No, I love that, and I feel like, of course, you're reliving this with your friends. Did Greta and Tio, did they have a chemistry read at all? Because their chemistry was fantastic. I'm curious, when the two of them first met, was it on set? Was it at a chemistry read prior to the film? How did that work?
So they didn't have a chemistry read, but I was just casting. Of course, I was casting with the chemistry in mind. But I think that when I met them both, it was amazing because we met them over Zoom. And the initial feeling is just like any kind of falling in love, which I think is just true about casting.
Yeah.
There's a part of it where you have to fall in love, and when you meet them, and you just have a feeling that this is the right person for the role.
Yeah.
And then I spent the rest of the audition, really, talking through if I'm right, if my instinct is right.
Yeah.
And it was, and I got to cast them. But the chemistry read that I did do was with children.
Oh, you did? With their younger selves?
Their younger selves.
Oh,
and,
wow.
and it was amazing because the little girl was already cast, and I was looking for the little boy to go to have the chemistry with the little girl.
Uh-huh.
And I saw 3 boys. And what I asked them to do is because their chemistry has to be so powerful because it has to carry their story through the whole.
It starts with them as childhood friends.
Exactly. So it has to begin there. So I was trying to find the right chemistry, and because there wasn't enough lines for them to audition with, something that I asked the boys to do is to ad-lib a scene where they're telling the little girl asking the little girl actress to not leave Korea and just stay with him and keep being friends with him in Korea. And the boy that I ended up casting, he did such a beautiful piece of ad-lib of asking his friend to stay that the little girl started crying.
So you're like, this is great.
And after the boy left, she was like, does she have to leave? Does she have to leave Korea? And because she was so sad that she had to. And to me, I just knew that they were the right match. And what was amazing is when you're talking about the chemistry that Theo and Greta had, they were actually watching the chemistry read between the boy and the girl to sort of learn from that, sort of build it around what they observed in their chemistry. So a little bit of the way that they do physical touch, the way that they tease each other, the way that they talk. Some of those things were just pulled from the chemistry read video that I had made.
So Taya and Greta did watch the chemistry video and pulled from that. That's really cool because not a lot of actors. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, another thing I loved about this film is all of the what ifs. What if Nora didn't immigrate to America? What if Haesung saw her in Korea when she was vacationing? And that's something that is touched on in the film when Nora says, I was in Korea, and I reached out to you and you didn't say anything. So why doesn't why doesn't he see Nora before, and when she's vacationing in Korea before she got married? Like, why not? Like, all of us want to know why.
Well, I think that what's amazing is that that you're asking me this question, because I think that it is a little bit of something that is in the movie that I really wanted it to be something that illustrates their emotional journey. Because a part of it is like, well, why wouldn't Haesung want to see her, and why would she want to see him?
Right.
And a part of it is that Nora probably wanted to have a proper goodbye, which then they were able to get in New York City in the end of the film. Because, right, so what she probably wanted is before she got married, she wanted to have a proper goodbye. And I think for Haesung, Haesung probably was in denial that it was either necessary or that he wanted to.
So
Right.
why did he decide to then want to meet her? He says, yes, I'm going to vacation, and all his friends are going to New York City on vacation, and all his friends are like, you're going to go see that girl.
Well, he is having he has a relationship, and
Right.
there's something to talk about marriage as well.
Oh, so it's almost
Right.
so it's like both. Yeah, okay. So I also saw it in that. Okay, no, that makes sense. But it's like you have that gorgeous shot of them walking in the park that's so far away, and it's glossed over. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, she did go to Korea? Like,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
happened? So thank you for answering that. I love that answer. All of us fans had to know.
Yeah.
I saw an interview of you where you were talking about the filmmaking style you did, where you were focusing on Greta, you were focusing on Teo, and it was going back and forth. And you're like, well, we go to her and then we miss, Haesung, so we go back to him. Talk about just the filmmaking style and how you did it so intimately, since it's their childhood friends, but like so many audience members are like, is it going to be more? And it ended up just being a really intimate filmmaking style. So how did you achieve that?
Well, I think that it's about the kind of camera movement that is meant to express subjectivity. Because I think that it is, you can also move the camera in a way where the way that you're seeing characters is objective. But there are moments in the film that are very much subjective in that way. So the camera has to then move in a subjective way. So, for example, that scene between Nora and Haesung where they reconnect for the first time in 24 years, the truth is that like they have missed each other so much. And they are trying to reach over to each other, but there is a limit to what they can do. So there is a bit of a missing that can happen even in front of each other. And part of being away from each other for 24 years is that, and I think this is also true about friends that are estranged or people who don't really speak as frequently anymore, which is that like you see the way that the other person has grown and changed while you have not been there for them.
Right.
And then there's something heartbreaking where you're like, well, actually, I used to know you so well, and I don't know you that well anymore. And so even though you're having lunch or you're having a deep conversation, there's a part of the other person that you miss, even though you're sitting right in front of them. Right? To me, that's what it's meant to imply. So the way that Shadi Krishna, my DP, and we wanted to move the camera in that scene is that for us to inspire subjective longing in the audience. Where when we're looking at Teo, there's a part of you that's like, because Teo is looking at, so Haesung, the character that Teo plays, Haesung is looking at Nora.
Yes.
With longing in his eyes.
Yes.
So we know that there is an object of longing, but we don't see her. So we miss her. So there's a kind of a longing that we feel. Through
You're like, what is she? How is she looking?
How is she looking?
Yes.
How is she looking at him?
Yes.
And then of course the camera slowly moves over to her.
Yes.
And we're so glad to see her.
Yes.
And we now are like so overjoyed to witness what she looks like, right? And she's looking at him who is not on screen.
It's so beautiful.
Again as, like with longing.
Yes.
So, and then we start to immediately miss Haesung again.
Mm-hmm.
We're suddenly like, we're with Nora, where's Haesung?
Yes.
Right? So that's why the camera sort of moves that way.
I love that. It's so well done. Because I'm like, wait, I need to see both of them together. What is the I love how the film opens up in the bar scene, and you see like the voiceover is like, oh, are they like a couple visiting, and he's their tour guide, and then the film essentially ends on that scene as well in a way. What was the significance of introducing the characters in the film that way at the beginning with the bar scene?
Well, the part of it is that like the character of Nora, who is sort of the burning center of the story,
Yes.
turns to the camera and looks at the audience.
Mhm.
And the thing
Yes.
I wanted to create is that, well, there is a mystery in the film, and the mystery in the film is, who are these people to each other?
Yes.
And I wanted the audience to feel both implicated and invited, and almost cast as a detective of this mystery.
Yes.
Detective of this mystery, and the mystery is like, who are these people to each other? And of course, then in the movie, the answer comes, but the answer is more mysterious than even the question itself, because the answer is Ian, right? And it's like these are
The fate.
Yeah, it's like a feeling that, like, well, we don't know why these people are connected, but we know that they are, and there's no one word to describe who they are. Like the two characters in the film, the characters on the film here, like who they are to each other is unclear, because they are they're not really exes. All that happened was they held hands as children.
Right. It's been so long. It's been 20 years.
Long, right. And then of course, secondly, it's like, well, they're barely friends, because I think friends hang out more, they talk more, they connect more. And of course, they're not strangers, because they're really connected so deeply, even beyond all of that. So who are they really to each other? There's no real word for them, right? And same thing applies to Haesung and Arthur, her husband, right? It's like, well, who are they to each other, right? They're certainly not friends, right? And they're not enemies, and they are, but they're not strangers either, right? And they both kind of hold the keys to the this woman that they love, that the other guy doesn't have. Right?
It is, yeah. I mean, Arthur in that scene, when he's just sitting there, listening to them, speak in Korean, even though he understands more than like most Americans do, it's still like, it's kind of like an uncomfortability. But at the very, very end scene, and I'm talking spoilers here because a lot of us have seen it and love it, and it's been out for months now, but the very, very, it just, when I was watching it again, the very end, when Nora kind of has the camera's just pacing her walk back to the apartment, what is going through her mind when she kind of like collapses in Arthur's arms? Is it a sense of like, it's like, I feel like it's a sense of like comfort, but sadness, and like kind of like an appreciation that happened, but like, and can you tell us like what she was going through?
Well, I think the truth is that the movie is about extraordinary hellos and extraordinary goodbyes.
Yeah.
And we talked about one of the extraordinary hellos, which is them seeing each other for the first time in 24 years. But the movie is in 3 goodbyes. The first goodbye is when they're in childhood, and it's not a very good goodbye because they're too young.
Right.
And the second time they're still too young, so they hurt each other actually. When they say goodbye over
Skype.
Yeah.
And that was surprising to me.
Yeah.
That they never, like, I was like, oh, they're finally gonna like see each other now, but I guess at that time in their lives it was still, she didn't want to go back to Korea, and it was not, he didn't want to come to New York at the time, right?
And I'm sure that's how it is when you're in your youth, which is that like you always think that there are other chances, right?
Yeah.
But do they know? They didn't know that was an actual goodbye, right?
Yeah.
And then of course
he was heartbroken.
I think she was as well,
Yes,
But
yes.
I think that when they are, and then when they finally say goodbye at the end of the film, part of it is that they're getting the goodbye that they were owed when they were 12.
Yeah.
So the truth is that when we were shooting, there's a moment where we flash back to the goodbye in childhood in that final scene.
Right.
And when we flash back, it is in the dark. And the reason why we wanted to light it in dark is because I really wanted it to imply that the 2 kids have been waiting to get their goodbye for 24 years. And they've been waiting in that corner for 24 years until this moment to get their goodbye. So what Nora is crying about, right, is that she's crying about leaving that little girl behind.
I see.
Like she never got to say goodbye to that little girl, and I don't think she knew that she needed to.
Yeah, she kept putting it away.
Of course, as we all do. I think we do that. We feel that way about even small moves, maybe moving from a town to town, from a job to job. We don't really throw a funeral for that. Right?
That's true, actually. Yeah.
We just move on. We just go like, oh, that was that. Let's move on. So I think that's what it was for her. But the gift that Haesung gives Nora is that Haesung flew 14 hours to be here to remind her that little girl existed, and that she deserves to be said goodbye to, right?
Yes.
So that's what Nora is. So that's the cry that she owed herself. You know, when the little kid Nora, when she walks home in Korea after saying goodbye to her friend, she does not cry there, right?
Yeah.
But so it's a cry that she was owed for 24 years.
Wow.
You know, and what's amazing about her husband being there is that her husband is, you know, he expresses earlier in the film that he does not know his wife as a crybaby.
No.
And we also know in the scene in the bedroom with Arthur that he wants more than anything to know his wife better, right?
Yeah.
He's learning a new language so that he can understand his wife better.
Right.
So that's what he wants. So in a way, it's also a happy ending for him because he gets to meet his wife as a 12-year-old.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. What a wonderful
Interesting.
thing.
Well, last question for you.
Yeah.
I've spoken with so many friends and colleagues who have adored this film, who wanted Nora and Hae-sung to end up together. What would you say? I mean, and we kind of all just touched on that, on the reasons of, you know, how they met in Fade and Inyeon and growing, you know, apart from each other, but yet having to say that goodbye. What would you say to all of the audience that at the end, I think that they're like, wait, that's it, they're not going to be together? What would you say to the audience who like was really shipping them to be together?
Well, I think that it is easy just because there are 3 people in the film, or because we have 2 people that we really follow throughout their lives.
Exactly.
That I think that it is easy for it to be seen as a love triangle or as a kind of a traditional way of like, which guy is she gonna go with, kind of a feeling. But,
sort of, yeah.
Yeah, but the truth is that like, you know, I don't think that that is necessarily the journey that Nora was on, right?
Yeah.
She doesn't choose either guy; she's choosing herself. Right?
She is, yeah.
Right. So I think that that's really at the heart of what this is, and I think it's also totally fair for you to be like, oh, I wish she was. But I think that actually that speaks so much for what you want in life, or like what you're looking for, and what you would have done.
Why didn't I tell that old friend or old lover like I want? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think that's a great point. People see themselves in her and which path they could have chosen.
Exactly, and I find it all the time where I feel like I've had between people who are single and people in a relationship, like the way that you connect to the film and how you feel about the film is so vastly different based on depending on where you are in your life and where you are in your love, right?
Yes.
It's like, well, you could be 16 and never been in love, or you could be 60 and you've been in love many times, right?
That's true.
And I've heard both from people who are in a relationship that I've heard both, you know, this movie made me want to go home and hug my partner and tell them I love them. And also I've heard, you know, this movie made me realize that I'm actually unhappy in my relationship. Like I heard both. And when it comes to someone who's single, I've heard both. Like, you know, I want to, this movie made me want to fly to a new country and like meet and reconnect with somebody that I always was what if, and I'm gonna just want to go and explore that connection. But I've also heard, you know, this movie made me get over my ex, right? So I think that to me, I certainly don't want the movie to be meant for one kind of a connection to it.
Right.
So I think it is completely fair for you to be like, oh my god, I think Nora would have ended up with Hae-sung if I had it my way. And I'm like, well, I think then we should talk about, not we, but like that person can talk about, well, when was the moment where it did feel like it was something that was worth pursuing that you didn't go for. But the truth is that by the time that, when it comes to Nora, by the time that there was any kind of a real possibility, it was not a real possibility. As Hae-sung says, like, we're sitting here with your husband.
Yeah.
And I wish that Arthur was a jerk.
Yeah, I know, but I like
awful
him.
And like doesn't love her.
Right.
But the truth is that he loves her.
Yeah.
And he's wonderful. And
to be sitting there, yes.
Yeah, right. And for her then it's really not a thing where it's like it's not quite a choice, because then what is she gonna do? She's an adult, right? She's an adult, and she's in love with she's in love with her husband, and this person is coming over here, and the truth is like it's never gonna be a thing where she's going to destroy her life.
Yeah.
Right? Because she cares about it too much. She loves her life.
Yeah.
She's gonna choose herself. Yeah.
I love that. Well,
Yeah.
Celine, thank you
Thanks
so
so
much.
much.
I feel a lot of catharsis
Yeah.
after talking to you and getting all of my
Amazing.
questions answered. So thank you
Thank
so
you so
much,
much.
and congratulations. And I can't wait to see what you're going to do next.
Can't wait.
Yes.